motivational crab. I was trying to think because I knew I wanted to do something today, but I couldn't quite think what I wanted to make, and I was like, motivational crab sounds good. And I hope everybody's having a good day. I'm sorry the angle of that is a little weird. I don't have a proper phone stand, and my computer was being a jerk with my webcam, so because of that, that's why you got my little phone angle. So basically what I want to do, I want to make another design kind of like this. I have this snail. I must create my own chosen home, so no matter where I go, I will always belong. So I'm going to be doing something a lot like this, but it's going to have a crab because I have this bag that has a crab on it that I think I got at Target. But it's really cute, and I was like, oh, I want to paint something like that or do some kind of design with something like that. And then I was like, wait a second. And I started thinking about this design, which is pretty popular because it's like a cottagecore thing, but like nautical designs are also popular from what I can tell. Just in general, and kind of the whole trend of pirates and sea shanties and things like that. So I'm like, crabs fit in with that, and I want to draw a cute crab, so that's what's going to happen. So we have that, and then like also I haven't cut it out yet, so this is just like a random cutout version of it from the sticker sheet, but also a little sticker version. So I want to do the same thing with the crab and have the same thing. It's just going to say something different on it. And it's going to have a crab instead of a snail. But I'm like, crabs also live in a shell, kind of like a turtle. And when I say crab, I mean just like a regular red type crab. I forgot exactly which type of crab that would be, but just a regular crab. And also what I'm going to do, I do want to experiment a little bit with pastels. And I want to experiment with pastels in relation to our acrylic paint, because we have all of our nice little acrylic paints over here. And I mean, as far as paint, here, hang on. What I want to do with the pastels, by the way, is I'm going to do some like little accents that I'm going to do on the crab with the pastel and try painting it as well, and just kind of see what happens. So I don't want to sketch like the whole crab. I'm just trying to think. I want to add some texture. That's really where I want to involve the pastels. I'm trying to think like how crab's little face is going to look. The little eye stalks, I want to have a bit of texture, and then kind of do the bottom part of its shell, and then little claws. So it's going to be a little different than the snail one. But anyways, yeah, I think that's good for now as far as texture. I don't want to go overboard with the pastel because I have never experimented with it in acrylic paint before. Sometimes when I draw stuff, I do sketch it out beforehand. It really just depends on what I'm drawing. Sometimes I will sketch out the shape of what I want to do, if that helps me plan it. But a lot of times I do just kind of freeform paint things, for better or for worse. That's what I do. Oh, what I was going to say about my paint is I do like these little cheap paints, the apple barrel paints. I like them because I get them at Walmart and they're really cheap. They're like 50 cents each, and I think some of the gloss ones are like 75 cents each, maybe 80 cents. They're less than $1 for like the fancier ones. But I really like them because they've got a nice quality to them. And like, I mean, I'm sure there's obviously better quality ones than this, but it's like good enough quality for what I do with it. Especially considering I make a lot of things and I'm like put too much paint on the canvas. I'm like, So I wouldn't want to use really expensive paint. But like, obviously, as I grow as an artist, like I will experiment with more expensive paints. But for now, these are more than helpful. And also for using the paints, like, yeah, sometimes I do pour them on a lid if I want to mix colors or something. Like I'll take a lid from a cheese container or something and just mix the colors. But usually I don't find that necessary for what I'm trying to do. Usually I'm just like, it's totally fine. Just doing it like this. I'm trying to also think what the crab should look like. But I will just take the paint, put it in the cap, and then kind of dilute it to the desired dilution with water. And that's always worked out well. And like this, I know what a crab is basically shaped like, so I'm not going to sketch it. If it was an animal that was harder to draw, I might sketch it. Sometimes I sketch people. Sometimes I just draw in freeform. I want this to be kind of just a fun textured drawing. And one thing I've recently started doing, which has been good with all my paintings, I want to get watercolor paper because it's textured. It has a really nice texture to it, and it doesn't shrivel up when you put water on it, which is nice because regular paper totally does. Now, for a long time, I was just using regular paper, and that's fine and everything, but problem, it does crinkle up when you paint on it with any wet paint, and that does include acrylic paint, particularly if I dilute it. But I haven't been able to find a good price on watercolor paper that I've been willing to pay so far. So because of that, until I find that, I've just been using cardstock. It's a little heftier than regular paper, so I found it works better with, if I do get the paper wet, it will crinkle up a little bit, but not too much. And most of the things I paint in it, it's not like I'm painting a picture for somebody and they're going to hang it up in their house. It's me being like, hey, I painted something and I'm going to put it in Photoshop and then fix the mistakes that may happen, including any visible crinkly paper. That's what it is. Like right now, I just splashed a bit of paint. I can't do anything about that, so I'm like, that's going to come out when I'm done painting this. And I'll fix it, unless I paint over it. If I end up painting over, then I don't have a problem. I want to make this crab really kind of chunky and cute. So I'm trying to think like how to make this crab just really cute. And then I'm going to be painting some text. I do really like the look of painted text, even though it takes a bit longer to make all the letters look nice. I do like painted text. But yeah, these paints are good. I do recommend them, and I want to say also, if you want to get into traditional forms of art, like or actual painting instead of just digital painting, or rather, as opposed to just digital painting, then I do recommend that, like, you don't need expensive supplies to start with. You can just get regular cheap paints, and they'll be good enough. Like, if you're going to paint a fancy canvas and charge like $1,000, maybe you might want to use different paint. I don't know what the people that do that use. But I do know that you can get really far and make nice things even with cheaper paints. So, definitely no need to spend a lot on regular paint. And it's perfectly acceptable in my opinion. If you want to have like an artist palette, cool, good for you. I've used them before. Usually my problem with an artist palette, if you're using a paint like an oil paint, which admittedly I've never used, but I do know oil paints do take a long time to dry up. So you could probably put an oil paint on a palette and then leave it there for a long time if you're going to be painting more things with it. I don't like pouring acrylic paint out onto a sheet unless I'm mixing it, because it's really hard to get it back in the bottle then if I don't end up using all I poured out. And I don't like wasting it. Though it may be cheap and I could waste it and I could afford to, I just still don't like wasting paint. So, because of that, I do like the fact that you can pour these paints into the caps and then that works perfectly fine. That is a perfectly valid, in my opinion, way to do this. And for this crab, by the way, I am going for more of a watercolor type look, which is why it's going to look a little different than the snail, which wasn't painted with watercolor. It was just painted with straight up color. And like this will look different when I scan it than it does in real life, just because of how my scanner picks up on colors. And how it concludes, like, yeah, this is how the color's blocked. Like, sometimes it doesn't pick up on all the details the best of texture. Even though I do have it set to a 300 dpi, which is dots per inch. And it's basically, for those who may be unfamiliar with the term, the print resolution. So, if you think about computer stuff, images are made up of the little dots on the screen called pixels. And with your lovely pixels, different, like, how many pixels there are determines the level of detail of something. Kind of like if you look at something with a microscope, you're seeing more details of it. It's kind of like that. So a higher dots per inch, or DPI, correlates to a better quality picture if you initially scan it at that level. If, for example, you had a picture, you only scanned it at, let's say, 72 dots per inch, you can, make it to whatever number of DPI you want after that, but it's still going to have the data retained from the low quality it initially had, so you may lose quality just because it was scanned at a low DPI. So if you're making art and you're scanning it and you have the option of, let's say, I recommend scanning at 300 DPI because that's the industry standard for print quality. There are places that for print quality require 600 DPI. Like I know Society 6 for some of their larger products requires that. Larger things in general, a lot of times do require 600 DPI. But most things like book covers and t-shirts and anything like that you might want to do with a design, perfectly okay with just 300 DPI. So that is a helpful tip. The default for the internet used to be 72. I think now it's about 120 DPI. The internet can handle that now. So, I'm gonna draw the little crab legs. But yeah, that's the things to know about quality. But like, the world won't end if you sometimes have an image that scanned less quality. You just might need to change it in an image editing software before you can put it on a t-shirt or whatever you want to do with it. Basically, it's just the quality it's being created at. So if you started a document with 300 DPI, it would have more data information that would make it ultimately look smoother than if you started with like 72 DPI. I'm trying to remember right now how many legs. I know crabs have 8 legs, but I can't remember whether their claws are also their legs. Yeah, I might be totally wrong about that. I've not looked at a picture of a crab in a long time, admittedly. Alrighty. Problems that I have. Considering it is my phone that is doing this, I can't look and see how many legs crabs are supposed to have. Again, I know it's 8, but I can't remember whether the claws are part of it. I have no idea. But anyways. Yeah, I think I'm going to say their claws are part of it. It's always easier to add legs to this later than take them away if I'm wrong. Just wanted to say that. Okay. So, the crab itself is basically done. I am going to set that brush aside because I do want to, where is it? I do want to add some accents of orange. Maybe some pink. I got out the pink. Come on, paint. Aha, there it goes. I will say eventually with these paints, if you keep dipping your brush in the water and dipping it in the paint, after a long time the paints will get kind of stinky, and I usually throw them out at that point. They'll have like a bunch of water sitting on top of the paint, and they'll smell bad when you open them. So then I'm like, okay, well this one's old. And I don't know if it's the paint itself that deteriorates or it's because I put water in with the paint and the water eventually deteriorates. It's not, it takes a long time for that to happen. So that's why I have no problems with dipping my brush in. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight the line that I drew to kind of do the 2 parts of the shell. I know this is not an anatomically accurate crab, just kind of a cute version of a crab. I wasn't trying to be scientifically accurate. One interesting thing, like kind of a fun fact about me and marine animals, is that I was obsessed with marine animals when I was a kid. And by that I mean like I was 8 years old and I was like, I want to be a marine biologist. Because I was obsessed with fish and coral reefs, and then I was like, I want to be a fish doctor. And then my parents were like, oh, do you want to be a marine biologist? And I like looked it up and I'm like, a fish scientist. I'm like, yes, that's what I want to be. So because of that, that made it so that I I read like every book the library had, especially in the kids section, about marine animals. I was always reading about coral reefs. Clownfish were my very favorite animal, and like I had plushy clownfish, and like I had all kinds of clownfish stuff. I was totally obsessed with clownfish. I had the Beanie Baby clownfish. I loved marine animals so much. And one thing, like, I was homeschooled. One thing, like, there was a marine park nearby us when we lived in the Florida Panhandle that had a program for homeschooled children that happened on weekdays. And I think you went like once or twice a week. But you got to do things like observe the animals, and they did teach classes, and they had like an art class, and it all took place at the marine park, so you got to see part of the shows and see kind of behind the scenes and stuff. It was like a program for homeschooled children that's kind of like a supplement to what you were doing at home. It was really cool. I really enjoyed that because I didn't get to like feed or touch the animals, but I did get to learn about them and observe them. And we would, watch presentations and learn about other things that were kind of related, like meteorology. We had people speak about stuff like that in like the auditorium, and we'd watch educational videos and things on like their little mini theater they had. So it was a really cool experience, especially for a kid who loved marine life and had lived in Wisconsin. And then when I was like 9, my family moved to Florida, and I was just like so excited because I'm like, there's marine animals. And like, a couple years later, I started becoming more interested in art and less interested in marine animals, but I still do have a soft spot in my heart for marine animals. They're sweet babies. Okay, so I think I'm going to also accent with a little bit of pink. So it's kind of an arty, colorful, happy crab. I do look up to and have a lot of respect for people that do scientific illustrations. Those would be very hard, and much as I love looking at them, would lack the patience to actually do it. It like when I'm painting stuff, I can focus on doing a painting if it's something that I'm really interested in for a long time, or if I start like hyper focusing on doing a painting. But there are a lot of things I'm like, I wouldn't have the patience to draw all those little lines. Like my grandmother does pen and ink drawings, which look great. They look beautiful and amazing. But I'm like, I need a little bit quicker satisfaction than something that takes that long to complete. That's why I like painting and stuff. Like, I have spent a long time making certain art projects of mine, but I don't like things that are overly detailed because I usually lose my motivation at that point. Okay, so I'm gonna get the black paint out. I'm trying to think. I think I'm gonna accent a little bit with blue actually. Oops. It's just the sound of me trying to knock over my paints, which, if you know me, I do make a mess with paints and everything else. I was making some resin stuff earlier, and I kept getting resin on my hands. I was wearing gloves, and then after that, I was like, I'm gonna have lunch. I moved all my resin stuff out of the way, but what was on the table? Resin. What did I get on my hands? Resin. And there's still probably wet resin on my table, and I'm like, cool. Well, I wonder how many times today I'm gonna get resin on my hands. Probably a lot of times. But, that comes with the territory. It's living with an artist. Something I joke about a lot, like what it's like living with an artist. But I'm gonna add some little accent marks because I think I wasn't quite sure about them when I was like, yeah, accent marks. But I like how they're turning out, so I'm gonna do more of them. And the nice thing, because ultimately I digitize, most of my art, unless it's something I'm making to be in a gallery, like I've exhibited my art in some local shows, obviously that stuff has to look good because people are going to see it in real life. But I want to say there's no shame in if you make mistakes on things that you're going to digitize, because the same as like a digital artist, they change a lot of things and make a lot of mistakes in drawing stuff. If you watch a speed draw, they make a lot of mistakes depending on the artist, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or they do something, they're like, I didn't like that. You Control Alt Delete it. Can't do that when I'm painting in real life, but what you can do is fix it in Photoshop, which is kind of the equivalent, or whatever app you use. So if you try something, it's like you can fix it if you're going to digitize it. You don't want to do something that's going to be too hard to fix digitally. I have done that before, and then it requires like so much work. Then you're like, why did I mess it up like that? If you don't mess it up too badly, though, then you can fix it easily. But as a kid, I was really excited also because we lived in Wisconsin, but we had pet hermit crabs because the pet store locally had them and my dad had researched them. And looking back, we definitely, like, when you read hermit crab care sheets of like people that know more what they're talking about, they really have a lot of requirements. And we did the best we could, and they lived a pretty long time. We just, like, looking back and having read actual, like, proper care sheets and not just like little pet store care sheets, like, oh yeah, this is fine. Like, we did an okay job. We gave them the main things that they needed, and that's not ultimately what they need, but yeah, we had pet hermit crabs, and I was so excited because I'm like, it's a crab and I can hold it. And I was like, it's a little ocean thing, like a piece of the ocean, and also a type of animal that I love very much. I was also just excited because I was the kind of kid who was always obsessed with pets. So I was just very excited that there was, we had more pets. Because at this time we didn't have any dogs. We lived in a house that had no dogs allowed, and we had a dog previously, but like a couple years prior to that, I had passed on from old age, so we hadn't had any pets in a couple years. So when my parents were like, do you want hermit crabs? I'm like, yes, I totally do. But, so yeah, I did have hermit crabs for a couple years. I had hermit crabs pretty much constantly, I think, between the time that I was like, it must have been 8. The time I was 8 and the time that I was like 15. And we would get them. I mean, they lived a couple years each. So I think we did an okay job caring for them, all things considered. I think ultimately they're supposed to have salt water in their cage and have like a saltwater pool they can crawl into. We didn't have that, but like we did soak them in the little tub like once a week or whatever you're supposed to do. And they did have salt water, I think they had salt water in their cages sometimes. But yeah, they were pretty cool. Okay, so now it's time for us to draw the crab eyes. I have a lot of paintbrushes, and I also have a lot of paintbrushes that are old and that are messed up. Because I'm also the kind of person that leaves the paint on my paintbrushes accidentally, and then I'm like, oops. Okay, so I want the crab to have big, happy, moist little eyes. I had a dream last night, and I was walking my dog in this dream, and then there was a guy that had some dogs. I don't remember what kind of dogs they were. They were small, but I think they were supposed to be like golden retrievers or Labradors or something. But they were smaller than like how big those normally are. But they had just like the sweetest, like loving, moist brown eyes, and they were so adorable in the dream. I really love when I have dreams about things that are like really super cute. Like really cute animals. I love that. That's amazing. Okay, so now I'm going to figure out, to optimize his cuteness, what his little mouth is going to look like. And I do think make his eye stalks a little bit more visible first. Okay, now I've done that. I'm trying to think Because when I draw something, I'm like, I want to make this as cute as possible. What can I do to make it really cute? I know how to do, like, kawaii things. But I'm like, what am I going to do that's going to make this extremely cute? So I always try to figure out, like, what is the cutest way I could draw this? Okay, I like that a lot. But I think what I want to add a little accent of pink. I want to have pink little happy cheeks. I'm a fan of giving things pink little happy cheeks. This pink is not going to probably show up well on my scanner, but that's something I can fix in Photoshop. Like in real life, it looks like a nice pale pink. My scanner hates this color pink. It doesn't stop me from using it. It just means I have to fix it a bit when I get in Photoshop. I'm trying to think. I think I'm going to grab my little pastel. Because I wanted to do like the little lines of blush. Like you see kind of in anime when something is blushing. That's what I wanted to do. Just kind of a little blush. Because this is a happy crab. And my paint bucket. Stand up really quick and get my paint bucket. Because I also want a little bit of white paint to add a little sparkle to little crabby's eyes. This white paint's getting pretty empty. But I do use it a lot. Kind of like my black paint, I also use that a lot. Alright, got that. But yeah, I own a lot of paintbrushes because I mess up a lot of paintbrushes. So if I'm at the store, I'm like, I feel like I need more brushes. Brushes are one of those things I never feel like I have enough of. Just a small little twinkle in his eyes. Haha. Okay, I really like that. I think that really makes it. That's cute. Okay, I'm happy with this. Anyways, so now it comes time for lettering. I'm trying to think. Do I want to? I don't want to smear the paint. That's my important thing I must remind myself of. I'm trying to think. Got my big chunky Sharpie. I might just use my chunky Sharpie. Because I like my chunky Sharpie. The chunky Sharpie smells really bad, but it works really good because it's big. Okay. One thing, if you're going to add text to a picture, it's important and helpful to try to think about where the words are going to go and how long each word is. So ultimately, this is going to say, I carry my home with me, so no matter where I go, I'll always have a sanctuary. And that's a pretty long statement, so I'm trying to think. Sanctuary will be on the bottom line. I carry my home with me, so no matter where okay, matter can be on this line. There'll be 4 lines of text. I carry my home with me, so no matter where I go. No, I carry my home with me. Okay. I think I figured it out. Time for chisel-tipped Sharpie. I want the letters to be kind of playful because the crab is looking up at the letters. That's the vibe I'm going for. Yes, chisel Sharpie still works. That's a fear of mine, honestly, is I buy so many Sharpies. I have a huge bin of Sharpies because I'm constantly afraid of running out of Sharpies. Or Sharpies drying up. Because, like, yeah, Sharpie works after a certain point, but it doesn't look good on drawings anymore. Those genuine fears of mine. So at the store, and I'm like, I feel like I need more Sharpies. And I just get, like, kind of anxious about, like, do I have enough Sharpies, though? And then I just get my Sharpies. And I just buy more. So I have a lot of Sharpies around my house, including brand new ones and then also some old ones that I should probably throw away. But I'm afraid of running out of them, honestly. Okay. This chisel Sharpie needs to be replaced eventually. It's getting a little dry. So I'm going to have to go over a bit of it. I know I just bumped that. Just making sure you can still see my crabbo. My crib. no, I didn't hit my phone. I was worried. I thought my elbow just hit my phone. With me, so no matter my home. I'm also really trying to not put my hand in the wet paint of the crab's eyes right now. Things that, if you know me, you know I do that a lot when I'm painting. The number of times I've been like, I'm just going to paint this other part real quick, and I squish my hand right into the paint. It's a lot of times. Carry me home. Right now it's really just me not hitting the crab in the eyes with my wrist. Carry me home with me. So, no. Clean up edges with a Sharpie if I can fix something. It's easier than fixing in Photoshop. I try to fix it if I don't like how the edge of the letter came out. This is sometimes I do hand paint the letters, but that takes way longer. And sometimes it's hard to get them to look nice. I do really like Chisel Sharpie. Again, Chisel Sharpie smells a lot, but Chisel Sharpie works nicely. And ultimately, like, these letters, I painted them, but it's got a similar vibe. These are a little soft on the edges, but they're basically going to look the same. And these, it took a long time to paint the snail letters. It won't take so long to paint these. Mostly it's just a matter of planning out your spacing. It's my biggest tip if you're going to hand letter something. Like in Photoshop or whatever, you can change the spacing as much as you want, but drawing in real life, you're like, wow. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And you can fix it in, post-production. But you can't fix it in real life. So you have to think about how big each letter is going to be and, like, should I go down to the next line? Should I try to write this letter? Carry my home with me, so no matter where I go, I'll always have it. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I know what it's going to look like. I'm really excited. Because I was trying to think about it. Let me think. Because before I try to write the small line of text, I want to write the word sanctuary around the crab. But I'm going to try to think. Okay. So SANCTUARY. Let me write the word on paper because I want to find out what the middle letter of it is. SANCTUARY. I want it so the middle one can be above his head. That's what I'm doing. You gotta plan stuff like that. Okay, so the T is the center letter of it. And then the other letters will go from there. Again, not trying to put my hand in his face. And I'm trying to also think, how tall should these letters be around the crab? They will kind of be different sizes to match the shape, but you want to make sure that you're keeping your letter size consistent. Okay, so now I've drawn the T because it's above his head. Also, handwriting a word is helpful because you can figure out what the middle word, if you're trying to do a letter around something like this, you can figure out what the middle letter is, and then you can, like, okay, where's the first letter start? And then you can kind of space them, like, do the middle letter, and then I'm going to turn this, while also not getting my hand in the crab, and draw the S. Oops. Make sure that's nice. And then, yes, it's going to work perfectly. And then the last letter, obviously, is a Y. So keeping in that same spirit, I want the letters to kind of be the same height, visually enough. I'm not going to measure like, oh, this letter's 1 inch and 1/16, and this one's 1 inch and 1/8. I want them to be, like, the T is smaller. These are similar sizes. In Photoshop, I might move the S a little bit further down. I might do that. I'll see how it looks. Okay, now that I've got those, I have the framework that I need. So, because of that, let me see. Okay. S A N C. That was the sound of my hand getting dangerously close to little Crabbo's eye. That was my little issue. SANCT. And trying to like match. So the U will be here, but the A will be like the N, so it will be on the side of his head and be a bit taller. And then the Y will be like the A, kind of by his elbow. Me not being entirely satisfied with how the R came out, so fixing it. Alright. Now I just need to write the little line of text. I was about to be like, oh yeah, I'm done with this. And I'm like, ha. Right now it says, I carry my home with me, so no matter, sanctuary. But yeah, so the reason I did it that way, like you put the T there and you put the other letters so you can fill it in so they'll be evenly spaced. Like that's a helpful trick that I figured out eventually. It did take me a long time to figure that out instead of just starting like sanctuary and then be like, cool, why'd the word end over here? It makes it so it's easier to get even. Like I said, I'll probably move the S down just a little bit in Photoshop, but it'll be easy to fix. So now I've gotten that word and now I've gotten this word. Now I know how tall this line of text can be without being, annoying. Because it needs to be a bit smaller. The text gets progressively smaller, so I have room to write everything. And also so it fits the space. I carry my home with me, so no matter where I go, I'll always have a. So it has to be pretty short. So no matter. Probably not use the chiselly part so much. I don't want to get my hand in the wet paint. So no matter where. Writing smaller letters with this takes practice, but it can be done. It just takes practice. Where I go, put that little comma in there. I'll always I'm going to fix that A in Photoshop because my ink blended together and now, cool, there's no hole in the middle of the letter. Which is okay with letters like A. If you gotta sacrifice that, then you can. I did it. Chiselly letters and all. I didn't want to change the look of it too much by not doing chisel letters. And voila. Our little happy motivational crib buddy is done. Oh, there's one other thing that I want to draw with the pastel before we're done. One thing I like drawing, I hope this shows up in Photoshop, or rather when I scan it, I hope my scanner cares, it has a little heart. I am a big fan of animals with little hearts because it's really cute. And when I'm drawing animals, generally I'm like, oh, how can I make a really cute animal? I'm outlining it also so it shows up. And so it matches the look of the other crab with stepping outlined on it. Outline with a little pink, like I used when it mixed with red. Anyways. Yeah, when I draw animals, I generally want them to be really cute. love cute animals. But yeah, there you go. But yeah, it has a little heart now. And adding hearts or little blush marks or things like that is one way that I do enjoy making things extra cute. So, here's our little crab buddy. I carry my home with me, so no matter where I go, I'll always have a sanctuary. Like I said, there's a few things with this that I will fix up and clean up in Photoshop, like the little paint smudgies. I'll make sure all the colors and stuff show up the way they're supposed to. I'll make the centers of these A's white again. But other than again, it just bothered me a little bit. The S just a little hair needs to go over, so it matches the Y a little better. It needs to be a slight different angle. It needs a little tiny change, but for all intents and purposes, this is the finished little crabbo, our little crab buddy. And I still need to post the mushrooms that I drew in last Tuesday's, well, not last year's, the Tuesday of last week. In that stream, I have not posted it yet. I do need to post it. I just haven't got a chance to. But I'm going to post that, and it'll be stickers and prints and things. And this will also be stickers and prints. I do want to do more nautical designs also. Because I do like nautical stuff. So when I come up with good nautical ideas, I will draw them. Particularly cute nautical animals. So yeah. There's my little crab buddy. And it is officially complete. So, thank you so much to everybody who showed up to watch this. I really appreciate your support. This is only the second stream I've ever done, and it is something I do want to do on a, I want to aim, my goal is to do it once a week. That may not always happen, especially, at different points in the year I might be busier, so I may not have time to, but I do want to try to do a stream, even if it's just a little stream. Even if it's just hey, I'm gonna, cut out some stickers. We'll just hang out and chill. Just to do something, just to, keep it as something I do. And I do want to figure out if there's a way I can take the stream videos and put them on my YouTube channel as well. Because I do think people would enjoy, watching how my things are drawn. And also it's a good way to motivate me to actually, make stuff on a regular basis. Because sometimes I do, and other times I'm like, I don't need to do it. It's fine. And then I just don't end up doing it. And I'm like, I'll make art. I'll make art sometime, and then I get caught up in other things, but I really like making art. So it will help me be better at actually doing that if I have to kind of plan in advance, I'm going to stream on this day. I have to figure out what I'm going to make, and I have to get my stuff together so I can make that. I'm regardless of what it is, just thinking about that in advance will be helpful for me. But anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much for showing up. I really appreciate everybody who came and stopped by. It's always a lot of fun doing these art streams and being able to share my art with you. So until next time, which in all actuality would probably be next Friday, I'll probably stream. But yeah, until next time, I hope everybody has a great week and stays safe and, just enjoys doing whatever kind of, creative stuff or whatever kind of stuff they like working on. I hope that you guys have a good week, and thank you so much for coming to my stream. Bye!